My name is James Bridgeforth. I'm a young and very successful investor who has generated multiple tens of thousands of dollars investing in the stock and crypto markets. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how banks are secretly buying Bitcoin and how over the next 4 years, this could be massive. At the moment, it is 10:40 a.m. and the markets have been open a little bit over an hour. So let's see how they've been performing so far. So at the Dow Jones Index, we can see that it's only up 0.18% on the day. And then we also see that the S&P 500 index is down 0.30% on the day. And then as we move over to the NASDAQ, we can see that it's also down 0.58% on the day. So the markets are pretty steady. They're moving, I would say, sideways at the moment. Obviously, it's still early in the day and there's a lot more room for trading. So at the moment, the markets are moving sideways. Now let's move on to Bitcoin, which is going to be the main topic of this video. And let's see, what is the current price of Bitcoin? How has it been performing over the last 24 hours? So Bitcoin currently has a huge green candle. Bitcoin is currently sitting at $89,000 at the time of making this video. Now, if you are looking to get in for long-term positions, whenever you're on TradingView, I would highly suggest looking at the 4-hour time chart. It is going to have the most steady support levels even when it comes to the moving averages. And support levels, like I talked about in my last video, are basically where the stock is going to hit a certain price point at multiple points and it's not going to be able to break under. And a resistance level is where it's going to hit a ceiling multiple times and it's not going to be able to break above. This 4-hour time chart is going to provide the best support and resistance for long-term investing in my personal opinion. Another time frame I like to use is either the 4-hour or the 1-day. These are both amazing time charts. But at the current moment, Bitcoin is sitting at around 89,000, a huge green candle in the upward direction, and it seems to be making a slow recovery in the upward direction from the downturns that we just most recently had. Now that we touched on the price of Bitcoin, let's move into the banks that are actually starting to slowly accumulate Bitcoin and allowing it to be actually used as a collateral. So if you're not familiar with who Jamie Dimon is, he is actually the CEO of JP Morgan, and around 2 years ago, he had this to say about Bitcoin.
He mentioned Bitcoin. You said you didn't know what we were talking about. We pretty much always have some crypto conversation with you. I'm just curious because I don't think we've talked to you since.
I think all that's been a waste of time, and why you guys waste any breath on it is totally beyond me.
Because you just think the whole thing just is
going to zero?
Going to zero and it's fake?
Bitcoin itself is a hyped up fraud. It's a pet rock.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
really?
Of course, yeah.
So what do you make then of BlackRock and other firms that are investing in infrastructure?
No, that's different. Blockchain is a technology ledger system that we use to move information. We've used it to do overnight repo, intraday repo. We've used it to move money.
Right.
So that is a ledger. That's a technology ledger type of thing that we think will be deployable.
Remember, we've
been talking about that for 12 years too, and very little's been done.
There's some tokens that I agree with you on, but Bitcoin's based on a distributed ledger. Yeah, it has all the characteristics of a store of value. It's immutable. It's scarce.
Totally untrue. It's
21 million.
Well, yeah, really. How do you know it's going to stop at 21 million?
Because
I've mentioned this to people
Satoshi.
Too. Everyone says that. Well, maybe it's going to get to 21 million, and Satoshi's picture is going to come up and laugh at you all and say, no.
But there isn't a picture.
And by then, Satoshi will have taken out billions of dollars.
Over 2 years ago, you could clearly see that Jamie Dimon views Bitcoin as fraud, but in this new news article that came out around a month ago, you could see that Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, actually is allowing JP Morgan to accept Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral. Now, let me ask this question. If you viewed something as fraud, why would you allow your customers to then use it as collateral? If you're not familiar with what collateral is, let's say I go to buy a home or I want to take out a loan. They are going to need collateral, basically letting them know that I have the assets to cover this loan if I'm not able to actually pay it back. So whether that be a house, whether that be your stocks, your bonds, this could be anything that you want to use. But in this moment, if he views Bitcoin as fraud, then why would he then turn around and use it as an asset that is eligible for collateral? This is because you need to look at what people are actually doing with their actions rather than saying with their mouth. There are many people, and I'm not saying Jamie Dimon in this instance, he is just purely an example. There are going to be people out there who are trashing investments, but then in private, they're actually buying these same investments. They are trying to trick retail investors like you and I, everyday buyers, into buying the wrong assets and being scared of certain assets that they shouldn't be getting into. So they produce this fear into the market, and then they turn around and then go buy it themselves. If you aren't familiar, but all of these news channels are actually controlled by banks. And where do banks want you to keep their money? They don't want you to invest. They want you to keep the money in the bank so that they can take that money and then go lend it out to other people and they could get interest on your money. See, this is exactly how they work. So of all of these platforms and major platforms on TV that talk about stocks and crypto, all of these people are controlled by banks, and banks don't want you to invest your money. They want you to put it in the bank. So once you start to understand this knowledge, then you will move differently and look at banks in a different light. See, in this exact instance, he is telling you with his mouth that it's fraud, but then he is turning around and doing the complete opposite. Even to the point to where JP Morgan is actually issuing price predictions for Bitcoin. Take a look at this article. In this article for Yahoo Finance, it says that Bitcoin has significant upside to 170,000, JP Morgan tells its clients. This is the same company that was just telling you that Bitcoin is fraud, but in this moment, they're telling you that Bitcoin over the next 6 to 12 months could hit an all-time high of $170,000 per coin. This is the exact reason as to why you can't trust the banks. You can't trust everybody else. Don't even trust me. I want you to do the knowledge, listen to everything that I say, and verify what I'm saying to you. Because this is something that is very important. This is your money. This is nobody else's money but yours. And if you want to take financial freedom of your money, then you are going to have to take control as well. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking, why did Jamie Dimon change his mind? I truly believe that in this video, he wasn't knowledgeable about Bitcoin to begin with. I believe that over time, he began to grow his conviction level as he did more research, which is exactly why when you make critical opinions about things that you're not truly knowledgeable about, you need to be very conservative in what you say, because this could turn around and bite you in the end, because now you're turning around and contradicting everything that you said, which then allows room for distrust between you and your clients. But now that Jamie Dimon is on board and he truly believes in Bitcoin as an asset, even believing in it as possibly a store of value for all of his customers if he's allowing to take it as collateral, then you can understand that if he has a price prediction of $170,000 per coin, then we're only sitting at 89,000 like I talked about in the beginning of this video. That's a lot of room for future growth for many, many investors. So as we look over the next 4 years, we see that Donald Trump is currently in office and he has a very pro-crypto administration. Previous administrations weren't as friendly. When we look at Gary Gensler, where many of crypto people really did not like him for his regulation and the way that he had views on crypto and his ability to not even look forward or not even have room to grow or expand the way that he thinks about it. He was very set in his ways in this point. But now that we have a new chairman of the SEC, the regulations in the administration is totally different. We can even look at Donald Trump and his sons from this perspective, and that they own American Bitcoin, which is a mining Bitcoin company, and it also uses Bitcoin as a treasury asset. So this is something that they use as a reserve asset, and why would he not back something that his own sons already run a company about? And they constantly go on podcasts and talk about all the time how Bitcoin is a great investment and how their dad is aboard. And you can even look back to understand that he's a pro-crypto president simply based on the fact that our president last year released a crypto token. Him, his son, and his wife. If all of these people are releasing crypto tokens and our own president has a very friendly crypto administration, then you can understand that he is in favor of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the top cryptocurrencies, and will then be putting in regulations to then send these in the upward direction, because these are the assets that him and his family owns. And we look outside of the Trump family and we look at the administration surrounding him, and we have Paul Atkins, who is currently the SEC's chairman, and he doesn't look at Bitcoin as an Ethereum as securities, but he truly looks at it as commodities, a digital asset, something that is used as a store of value. This is something that is very important, because when we have a crypto-friendly administration over the next 4 years, we see how Bitcoin performed under a non-crypto friendly administration. So we can understand over the next 4 years that $170,000 price target, like JP Morgan stated, is not unreasonable. And we can even understand, as the United States is pretty much the leader when it comes to everything on the economic side, that we can understand that other countries will soon follow suit. So when we have a crypto-friendly administration, and in previous years we haven't had one, but Bitcoin has been able to perform amazing, then we can understand that over the next 4 years, Bitcoin will continue to go up in the upward direction. So now that you have gained all this information, what can you do to position yourselves? Bitcoin is still at a low price. This is a great buying opportunity that I would personally be taking advantage of. Obviously, everything that I say in this video is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I would do in your situation. So these are opportunities that I'm currently buying at these prices. I understand that over the next 4 years, we have a very crypto-friendly administration. The Donald Trump family is very on board with it, with his 2 sons owning a Bitcoin mining and treasury company. And then we look at our biggest banks, JP Morgan being #1 in the past years, telling us that Bitcoin is not an asset that you want to invest in, even referring to it as fraud. But now in this moment, JP Morgan is now looking at Bitcoin as a great asset that they are even willing to use collateral on. And they're even allowing their clients to buy Bitcoin through them in the form of an exchange traded fund that was issued by BlackRock. Then we can understand that Bitcoin has a room for a lot of future growth, even outside of its pure fundamentals. These are all just news-driven data that are all going in the positive direction that favors Bitcoin. So if you don't own any, I would very strongly consider buying some for the future, or even just looking out into the future and understanding the information that everything that I just gave to you. Look at it from this perspective. I want you to take the time, do the research, and do the knowledge, because you even have some of the biggest CEOs and the owners that didn't do the knowledge themselves, but now that they finally understand what Bitcoin has to offer, they are now on board. And you can be in that exact same position. Don't allow all of these big institutions to take up the Bitcoin and allow you to not get your investments in. Because originally Bitcoin was meant for retail investors, and it still is. It's not too late to invest. All you have to do is do the knowledge and take the right initiative and the right steps in the right direction. So if you enjoy watching this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, turn on that post notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll see you guys in the next video.